Welcome to a very hot City Council, Gig Harbor City Council meeting of Monday, June 28th, 2021. Because of the heat, it is 5:35. Due to public health concerns, this meeting will be accessible by calling the number that we've provided at our website, as well as the meeting ID number that we've provided. Or you can go through a Zoom meeting that we've provided on our website. Comments are only allowed during designated portions of the meeting. To speak during the meeting, press the raise hand button near the bottom of your Zoom window or press *9 on your phone. Please refrain from raising your hand until the mayor has announced that he has opened up the public comment portion of the meeting. Your name or the last 3 digits of your phone number will be called out when it is your turn to speak. When using the phone to call in, you may need to press *6 to unmute yourself. So that's *9 on your phone to raise your hand, and *6 to unmute yourself. All speakers have up to 3 minutes to speak. Now, instead of speaking live, you may have submitted comments in writing by email before this meeting. Your comments must have been provided to the city clerk by 3 p.m. the day of the meeting. All written comments must be able to be read within 3 minutes or less and to be included in the record, and must state "for public comment" in the subject line of the email. In addition, the comments must include your name and address of the person submitting the comments. Right now, I'd like to call to order and do a roll call. Councilmember Abersold.
Here.
Councilmember Denson.
Here.
Councilmember Franich.
Here.
Councilmember Himes.
Here.
Councilmember Markley.
Here.
Councilmember Rodenberg.
Here.
Councilmember Wook.
Here.
This is Mayor Kit Kuhn, and we have City Administrator Bob Larson.
Here.
Interim City Clerk Josh Stecker.
Here.
City Attorney Daniel Kinney.
Here.
Public Works Director Jeff Langhelm.
Here.
Senior Engineer Aaron Holst.
Here.
Police Chief Kelly Busey. I believe we've excused him because we didn't feel something was due tonight of police urgency. Finance Director Dave Rodenbach.
Here.
Community Development Director Katrina Knudsen.
Here.
And yes, we also had tourism, HR, and IT and court that we didn't feel was necessary to come tonight. So anyone that I did not call. Okay. Please, all of us, let's not mute this time. We'll see how it goes. Let's please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the
The
flag
flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under
under God, indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. It's hot out there. 100, 111, I don't know. It's hot. So thank you all. I hope you found a place to stay cool. Are there any changes to the agenda tonight by council? Okay, we will proceed with the agenda that we have. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Abersold, second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Consent agenda passes 7-0. Under the mayor's report, 2 items. This will be our city administrator, Bob Larson's last council meeting. And I wanted to say thank you. And I wanted to acknowledge my respect and appreciation to Bob. Bob has been a city administrator for over 35 years, and Gig Harbor is in good financial shape, and our city services continue to be formed to what our citizens count on and appreciate. And on behalf of the city, we would like to thank Bob for all that he has done here, and we wish the best for Bob and his family. I didn't get long enough to work with Bob, but I have a lot of respect for him. And he's given good advice to the city, and we'll miss him greatly. And with that, I wanted to be able to let council, show their appreciation as well. Go ahead, Councilmember Wu.
Yes, thank you. Well, Mr. Larson, you had
you had the strength and the courage to come into us when we were going strong and when we had some issues. Thank you for being here, and thank you for working with us. Thanks for working with the employees, and thanks for doing your best for the citizens of Gig Harbor, because that's who we all work for. So thank you for your time. I look forward to bugging you when you're just a citizen again. So, so I hope you and your wife are really enjoying your time in Gig Harbor, and that those honeydew lists grow and get done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Abersol.
Yeah, Bob, I just want to thank you for coming to our city and being a part of us and being part of our lives. I don't think that the time that we spent together with COVID went a lot smoother with your professionalism and your handling of the situation, keeping our staff safe and helping us navigate through these tumultuous waters. I'm sorry to see you go. I wish it wasn't so, but that is your choice, and we wish you, or I wish you, a happy journey, and may it be long and full of health with you and your family. And we hope you stay here in Gig Harbor. So thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Markley.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Bob, so much for everything that you've done for our city. I've enjoyed getting to know you, and I'm also very sad that you're going, but I'm excited for your retirement, excited for you and your wife to be able to do all the things that you want to do, and glad you'll be around town. I look forward to buying honey next to you at the farmer's market and seeing you around town. Thank you so much for just absolutely everything that you've done for our community. We will not forget your service. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Dinson.
Yes, Bob, I'll echo all of the aforementioned comments. You've been such a pleasure to work with. You're so wise and steady and reasonable, and it's just been a real pleasure. You explain things so well, and as a new council member, I really appreciated that. And I congratulate you on your retirement. I know you and your wife are so active. I see you walking all over town, and I hope to see you guys out on the hiking trails sometime soon. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. And, you know, if it's been hard, you know, for all of us, but I think it's especially hard for a lot of us knew each other, even with this new council that came on 2 years ago. But Bob didn't really know anyone before that. And I think it was a period of 2 to 3 months at the least, or at the most, that Bob actually was able to have a staff that he could see. You know, it's very hard to memorize 120 names, 150 names when you don't see them, except for Zooms. And it's just been really hard to run a city when you can't be there, when you can't have a city hall closed. So, you know, if we all do have this company city picnic this summer, Bob, well, we won't have a permanent city administrator for you to compete in. You're retiring. We'll invite you and come and join us and have a cheeseburger or whatever we eat.
Certainly would. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. So the second item is typically before I became mayor, so about 3.5 years ago, it was kind of standard for 10 or 15 years. The council can do whatever they want, but it was kind of standard that the second council meeting in August, past councils up before 2008 decided to not have a second council meeting in August and take a break. So I think we may have done that one time in the last 3 years. One time we actually wanted to still have a meeting, and then we only had 1 or 2 items on it. So I wanted to request council to let them know if they would be supportive of canceling a second council meeting that would be in August. That would be August 23rd. So it'd actually be, I guess, 2 days after the parade is how it is. And it's when a lot of people plan on vacations. But it's your meeting, it's council meeting. So I wanted to let our staff and yourselves with your schedules be able to either plan on that meeting or not plan on that meeting. So I'd like to maybe get a show of hands so everyone in the city and yourselves can schedule your, let us know what you feel. Go ahead, Councilman Abersol. Okay.
Show of hands.
Show of hands to cancel the meeting, the second one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's 4. Great, thank you very much. And if something obviously comes pressing, just like our 5 o'clock meeting, you're all very quick to reach out and be there. So appreciate it. With that, that concludes the mayor's report, and I will turn it over to our city administrator report.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council and staff and the public. I've got 3 reports tonight, and I'll try to be as brief as possible on these. I've got an update on our COVID-19, and this is a notice that Mayor Kuhn worked with us on, so we've got his approval. It's been posted on the doors of our Civic Center. It's on our website and other social media, and it's at the post office, and it was updated as of today. We're going to, on or about July 19th, begin to reopen for other additional services to the general public, and they'll be by appointment, or possibly for others that don't require an appointment, they'll be available at the Civic Center or other sites. But we'll continue to update the website. That's going to be the key place to go, so we can continue to evolve. But I wanted to make sure everybody's aware that once we make a decision to reopen on a permanent basis, we'll announce that as well. But like right now, it looks like July 19 is going to be our key date. The governor has not yet announced the lifting of the restrictions. They're due, frankly, by this Wednesday, June 30th, but we have not heard from the governor or his office. But we're anticipating a very positive outcome on that. But as soon as we get that, we'll get that out to council as well. And then for anybody who's going to be coming into the building for any services by appointment, they must wear a face mask and complete a temperature and health check. It's in effect that's caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. And they'll be accompanied by a city staff person with whom they've made the appointment if necessary. And again, we're going to ask folks to see our website for the full updates on that one. Currently, we're offering fingerprinting services by appointment. We're contacting folks on property return that perhaps was involved with a police issue. And we're also doing a regular prescription drug turn-in. That does not require an appointment. That right now is each Monday from 10 a.m. to noon. And we do not accept needles or liquids at this time. That's my first report. If anybody's got any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer those. I've got a couple of councilors, Mayor, that have got their hands up.
Yeah, Councilmember Franich.
Yeah, is there a particular reason, assuming that the June 30th date stands, is there a particular reason why we're waiting those 19 days?
No, we really need to continue to bring staff back. Again, we'll have limited services, but we're looking on or about that date of July 19th. That's a Monday. But we discussed it. It'll be a short turnaround for next week. We're going to be in the middle of a transition from my departure and onboarding Tony Piasecki. He'll be needing to spend time with a lot of staff and the mayor next week. And it gives us just a brief 1 week of the Monday, July 12th through Friday, July 16th to prepare. And we felt that was a reasonable enough time to get everything ready to go, especially since we haven't heard from the governor's office. But we're trying to make sure that we've got the staff who want to come back, and we have to continue with some policies with our union groups as far as, for instance, the order on mask wearing, social distancing. We have to prepare a few more workstations to shield employees that are working out in the open. But that's been our plan, and we're going to execute it on that date.
Councilmember Hines.
Yeah, I saw an email within the last 2 weeks relative to the special use permits. Some issues starting to arise, and my question is staff pursuing that, and is there any suggestion or recommendation come forward? The reason being, if my memory serves me correctly, that thing is in effect all the way to the end of the year, and the rest of the what I call summer celebration season. So any light you could shed on that, I think would be worthwhile.
If I recall correctly, you're referring to is it the public right-of-way use permit? Or
It's a
is it-
special use permit for outside dining facilities, basically.
Right,
And
I'm gonna defer or ask our Community Development Director, Katrina Knutson, to help with this one and respond.
Thank you, Bob. Councilmember Himes, we've added this topic to the Planning and Building Committee agenda for the July 6th date. You are correct that council, when they did pass the temporary suspension of special use permit related to COVID, that it was extended through the end of this year through December 31st of 2021. The staff will be briefing the committee on some of the concerns that we've heard from the community as an information only. At this point, the ordinance that council passed stands. And so that is what we're communicating to the public. However, there has been enough reaching out of public that we felt that it would be appropriate to bring to the committee for discussion.
thank you.
Councilmember Markley.
Thank you. Bob, going back to the prescription drug turn-in, I believe Chief Busey has answered this for me in the past, but just for our general public, when no needles also means no expired, used, or unused EpiPens, correct?
I believe that's correct. Anything that's got a shard on it, yes. that'd
Okay.
be correct.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go on to my next report. I'm going to lead in with, and I'm certain that Mayor and the council would agree, as well as our staff. I want to extend, on behalf of everyone, to our own staff, a huge debt of gratitude for the dedication of our employees, especially these past several days. And I'm going to give you some examples. In addition to the ordinary, extraordinary things they do day in and day out, these last, I'd say last several days have been very difficult for a lot of our employees with the weather. And I'll give you a couple examples. Our potable water system, we really pushed hard, and Ken Andrews and his staff and other staff as well from outside of Public Works, they worked very diligently in their efforts, including operations and engineering, to put well number 3 back online this past Saturday. You may recall we had some issues with that earlier this year, and now currently all of our wells are operating. And I can't begin to describe the relief that we have, especially from our staff, knowing about all those wells operational, especially given this weather. And they worked really hard to get that done. And I think you would agree in joining me that we need to applaud them for that. We also have staff working outdoors, and we've been very, very careful. I expressed this last week to all of our senior staff to remind and to go through some training if necessary to remind our employees that they are not to be spending as much time outdoors as they normally would, given the circumstances. And I'll give you some examples. All Public Works and utility staff working outdoors, they were taking steps to address the extreme heat, including starting and ending their shifts earlier, which requires them to come in earlier, obviously, and they come from outside the area. Doing less physically strenuous tasks and projects where possible, and then minimizing the amount of time they're exposed to the sun and spend outside. I think you all could agree that if you went out there for 10 minutes on a day like today, just to stand outside would be complicated, much less try to do some tasks. And the other one, of course, we've got police, we've got engineering, we've got construction inspectors and building inspectors who are also out there doing their job. And we've also advised them to take extreme caution while they're outdoors. And it's not going to end after today. We're going to have some additional weather. It's going to be well into the 80s, even closer to 90. And please think of our employees on these days when they're out there. They're providing a valuable service. The other one is our HVAC system, our heating, ventilation, air conditioning. Over this past week, our crackerjack building maintenance technician, Marty West, has been adjusting and fine-tuning and making minor repairs as necessary to our HVAC system. These systems are being pushed to their limits to handle this extreme heat we are currently experiencing. I don't know if most of you folks know this, but I learned through Marty that when they size up these systems, they don't necessarily go for the optimal or the maximum that they need to. Yeah, they need to go about 80%. So on extreme days like today, and we've had them the last 3 days, these systems are under great strain to keep producing. And I can even feel it in the building today. It's as the day wears on, obviously we can feel it, but I certainly appreciate Marty and all that effort he's put in. And then we've also, we're partnering up with Chapel Hill Church this past week, and as well as today, we partnered with them to open a cooling center. And I want to applaud Kelly Busey, our police chief, as well as Laura Pettit, our communications person, for working quickly with folks, including Pierce County or Pierce Transit, to help with this one as well, to facilitate it. May not sound like many people, but we had 13 at the cooling center on Saturday. We had 19 on Sunday, and we expected more people today due to the even higher temperatures. That's pretty remarkable, and that people would take advantage of that. We hope that more people would have that needed it, but that we helped out a number of folks, and I want to thank the mayor and council for providing that service as well to the public. And my last one, I wanted to make some comments about my retirement. Of course, I never could have imagined that my last council meeting would be marked by an all-time record high temperature, and so I'll never forget it. It'll be easy to remember the date. But I also want to say that I've thoroughly enjoyed my 37 years in city management, and I'm most grateful for having had the opportunity to serve you folks in the Gig Harbor community. We all know that we're very fortunate to have hardworking and talented employees who provide essential services to our community. I cannot say enough about their dedication and diligence managing and operating city services and programs. I want to wish you continued prosperity. I'm also looking forward to following and applauding your future successes. You've got quite a few things, what I'll call in the hopper, and you're gonna be seeing some of those come to fruition. And I'm gonna be excited to see those. I'll be obviously a member of the community, and I'll be enjoying them with my wife, Jane. But I also want to thank you for the privilege of serving Gig Harbor, and I wish Mayor Kuhn, each of our council members, and our staff a bright and productive future. Thank you, Mayor. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Okay, so public comments on non-agenda items. I'm going to open up the public comment period for that. Bob Larson, were there any written comments?
I did not receive any comments on non-agenda items, Mayor.
Okay, now I will open it up to the callers. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address. And I will start with caller 874. Go ahead, you have 3 minutes.
Hello, Mayor Kuhn. How are you doing this evening?
Good, thank you.
And I wanted to say hi to all the folks on the council. This is Tom Wick, Hunt Street Northwest, Gig Harbor. Just a few things this evening. I sent an email on the 23rd, I believe, to multiple staff. And I asked for a confirmation of receipt because it was very important. Actually, it was on the 23rd. And it included, of course, Mayor Kuhn, yourself, Mr. Larson, Mr. DeSimas, and the council, and Ms. Knutson, and of course, Pierce County representatives. But one of my concerns is I want to make sure that if a hearing examiner addresses any issues at all regarding development within the Scansey Avenue drainage basin, that the hearing examiner, whether it's the city's permanently appointed one or if it's an interim one, gets the message that what was reported as far as the drainage conditions on the downhill side of Hunt Street Northwest was not documented and reported with accuracy. And I just need to make sure that is communicated. So I'm using tonight's forum to make sure that out of all of you, that message gets to them. One of my concerns is my father-in-law is well within 300 feet of a development that's currently in process. And there was a document that said he was mailed notification, and he wasn't. His name's not even on the list, and he's 50 feet, I think, 70 feet the most. So the other issue is I'm respectfully requesting Mayor Kuhn and members of the council, and Ms. Knutson specifically, if there's any actions taken within the Scansy drainage, that my father-in-law, the owner of parcel 022-118-2000, is sent a signature required notification. I will pay any extra costs for that accommodation. I'll pay for the mailing, I'll pay for the staff time, but I want to make sure if there's a hearing, he needs to be able to provide public comment. So that's one thing I'm making that request. The other issue is public records request remains outstanding that would take the city maybe 5 minutes to complete. It was a request for all email communications between myself and the city of Gig Harbor, elected, non-elected staff, and that's several months ago. And I haven't received it. That's a problem, especially when somebody has tried, actually someone successfully did hack into my computer system in my iPhone. And somebody not too long ago was continuing to try to do so. Nobody has very recently, but my concern, I think, should be pretty obvious. So I would like a copy of all those records, attachments, all email addresses, all city personnel. And I'd like that to be mailed out tomorrow if you could. So, yes, Mayor Kuhn.
I'll let you finish your time first. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, and that's, like I said, the concern is I just want to make sure that if there is a hearing, I know that's a standard process, but what I don't want to have happen is, something gets sent in the mail to him, it doesn't get to him, there's a hearing, he didn't get the opportunity to provide public comment. And based on recent history, I think it's a reasonable accommodation, no cost to the city. I hope you agree with me on that. Go ahead, please, Mayor. You had something you wanted to say.
Well, you're past your 3 minutes. So I'm just going to wait to comment till you're finished. Okay. Thank you for the comment. Correct me if I'm out of line, Daniel, but public requests cannot be done at a council meeting. They have to be done in writing to the city. I've never, in my 3.5 years, a council meeting isn't for having people say, I request documents sent to me. I think that has to be done by a public records request, which is done in writing. Is that correct, Daniel?
Correct. A public records request. The city has a process. It's on its website, and I think he was just asking for it to be finished, and I have no doubt that the city will finish it in due course according to your process.
Right. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, yes, if you turned in a public records request, Mr. Wick will for sure get it out to you. I hadn't seen it. Bob's working on those, or our clerk, so I wasn't sure if you were asking at that time. So thank you. Okay. Any other callers that are wishing to raise their hand and have a public comment on something not on the agenda? Okay, I will close the public comment period. And our first item, we have no old business tonight, but we got a whole bunch of new business. So our first item, I'm sorry, Councilmember Markley.
I'm so sorry. I know it's early in the meeting, but may I request a 5-minute recess, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
There's no objection. We will come back at 6:08. It's back. We are resuming the city council meeting of Monday, June 28th. The time is 6:10. Our first item of new business is our public hearing, Resolution 1212, adoption of 6-year transportation improvement program on our TIP 2022 to 2027. The report tonight is by Senior Engineer Aaron Holst.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Before you tonight is the proposed 2022-2027 6-year TIP or Transportation Improvement Program. In accordance with RCW 357710, local agencies must annually prepare and adopt a comprehensive transportation program for the ensuing 6 calendar years that is consistent with the agency's Transportation Comprehensive Plan. The TIP is required to be submitted annually to the State Secretary of Transportation. The criteria for receiving state and federal transportation project funding requires the receiving agency to have a current approved 6-year TIP. Part of the TIP process is a public hearing and adoption via resolution. Provided as part of your council packets tonight were the proposed 2022 TIP map, the proposed 2022 TIP report, a 2021 to 2022 TIP comparison spreadsheet, SEPA addendum, and resolution 1212. Related to fiscal consideration, the adoption of the 6-year TIP does not directly affect the city's finances. The fiscal impacts will be reviewed during the budgeting process. There's a recommendation/motion included in the council bill, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Aaron. Yes, this would be comments for Aaron. Councilmember Wu.
Yes, thank you. I just want to confirm, we are in our budget right now. We are getting information ready to apply for a grant for Prentice Street in 2022. So not having Prentice on the 6-year TIP does not limit going out for this grant or working on this street. Is that correct?
Correct. It will not limit our ability to apply for grants.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Jensen.
That's a little confusing to me because I thought that was one of the reasons we needed projects on here. So thank you for that question, Councilmember Wook. Is there a limit to the number of projects we can have on this list? Or are we limited to like 30 or 29 or whatever we have here?
There is no limit to the number of projects we can have on the city's 6-year TIP. It is supposed to be, a relatively realistic transportation improvement program. That there is a requirement, though, that any project that is in our 6-year TIP has to be identified in our transportation comprehensive plan that we most recently updated in 2018.
Okay, is this the time to bring a comment about a project that I would like to see on this list?
No, I don't believe this. If it's not already on the list, then that's part of the budget process.
So during the budget, and I'm a little confused. So do I need to, during the budget process, ask for a project to be added to the comprehensive plan or the TIP list? Which comes first?
Well, I think Mr. Larson had sent out a request for council to send in what they wanted in the 2022 budget. That would be part of that.
But this wouldn't necessarily be something that would have to happen next year, just something that I would like on the list ultimately to get done at some point. So I don't know when the right time is to mention that.
Wouldn't that be a Public Works Committee?
Mayor, Public Works Director Langhill may be able to help with answering this question.
Well, actually, I was going to talk about something similar, but not directly. So I don't know. Maybe Aaron, you would want to respond to that question first.
Yeah, sure. And it sounds like the question's related to the appropriate time for when to add a project to this list. So if that project is not identified in our 2018 comprehensive plan, then yeah, to add a new project to the comprehensive plan, that's going to require us to revisit, at least partially revisiting that 2018 comprehensive plan project list. So that would require an update to the comp plan to be in the budget and likely getting consultants involved. So that would be the first step for a project that's not in the 2018 comp plan.
So it's possible, I'll just mention the project, and it's the Peacock Hill sidewalks. So it's possible that is in the comp plan, but it's not on the TIP list?
So I can speak to that a little bit. There's some general language in the 2018 comp plan for citywide sidewalks. So I believe that any new sidewalk project could be added if council wished to the TIP at any point, because there is citywide sidewalk project mentioned in the 2018 comp plan.
Okay, so I don't know when the right time is to do that, but I think that should be on our 6-year TIP. And if we have to reprioritize, personally, I think that that's more important than the Bernhardson Street sidewalks. And I live right here. So I just think more people go up and down Peacock Hill all the time, downtown Gig Harbor North. So it's probably not the right time, but I'll just put it out there.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, Aaron mostly answered that question. I just wanted to clarify some of the confusion that might be around about sidewalk projects, and specifically the Prentice sidewalk, is that, as Aaron noted, in the city's 2018 comprehensive or transportation element, there was a project that identified sidewalk projects. And so and in the city's comp plan, identified sidewalk projects. So just by having that project in there, we can use those projects or that justification in our planning documents to support any advancement of a project itself into the budget, into the tip list, and for grant funding. We could not apply for some grants if we didn't have it identified already in the comprehensive plan. But the projects that we're talking about here, the Prentice sidewalk, Peacock Hill sidewalk, those are falling within that category. So those would be justifiable.
Thank you.
Right.
And I don't think Councilmember Denson's question has fully been answered about how would she be able to place a specific sidewalk project on the tip? So unless you heard an answer, Councilmember Denson, yeah. So Aaron, maybe you could speak to that specifically.
Yeah, I can. Thanks, Jeff. I can speak to that a little bit further. So as long as the project's in the 2018 comp plan, I mean, at any point that council concurs, we as staff can add a project or remove a project or alter a project on the tip list. I think what we're looking for is council concurrence on that. So does that answer your question?
It does, and I would like to propose that if anyone else is supportive of finishing the sidewalks on Peacock Hill.
Well, one thing, when you say finish the sidewalks, one thing we've tried to do up at, are you saying one side or both sides? Because one thing we've tried to do is do all one side before we start doing two sides, and then have streets that don't have a sidewalk at all.
I agree with you completely. One side, and like I said, it doesn't have to be done next year, but I think it should be on our list to get done.
Okay, Daniel.
I just wanted to comment that the list as presented tonight was published in advance for a public hearing. And so if there's going to be something added to it, the public wouldn't have known to be able to comment on that should they want to.
So a thought, would it be possible for approving this and then at another later date when we let the public know about this, add that project to the tip?
Yeah, that would work, and that would give staff some time. If you've looked at the report, there's some, we have to come up with the engineer's estimate and, look at the project length and determine a project description. And sometimes that means coordination between staff and full council to see what council really wants that project to look like. So yeah, it would be ideal to have some time to look at those kinds of things.
So yeah, I think most of us all would agree it's important, but with easements that we may end up having to go from one side of the street and then a crosswalk over, if someone doesn't want to give us an easement, unless we can do cease and domain. But again, I think that's something that with engineering time right now too, maybe we can, Councilmember Denson, would you support being able to allow staff to figure out how much time they would need to bring that back with accurate information?
Of course.
Okay.
But let's get it done, because I know we've been talking about it for the last 2 years and it never seems to show up on the lists. So yes, please.
Okay, great. Any other clarifying questions for staff? Okay, I will open up the public comment. Bob Larson, was there any written comments on new business item 1?
Mayor, we did not receive any comments on this item.
Okay, I will open up the public comment for people that are phoning in. Any callers that wish to speak that are listening, please raise your hand. Okay, I will close the public comment. Do I have a motion to approve resolution 1212? Councilmember Franich.
Yes, I would just like to clarify, in the packet, it said that this actually was heard by the Public Works Committee, and we did recommend this to move forward. And so I just wanted to clarify that for the record. And I'll make the motion to approve resolution 1212.
Thank you. And Councilmember Hymes.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Okay, motion passes 7-0. Resolution, new business number 2 is resolution 1213, support for recommended measures in response to issues identified in the 2020 employee engagement survey. Giving the report tonight is City Administrator Bob Larson.
Apologize for that. I had all my paperwork here and then I put it underneath everything else. Mayor, members of the council and staff and public, in October 2020, the city of Gig Harbor, we conducted an initial employee engagement survey. The results of that survey, along with the written comments from employees, indicated several areas of concern that require work to improve employees' workplace experience and to improve the overall city organization. At that time, we had the survey company provided suggested next steps for the city to undertake to address those identified issues. And in response to this, we've prepared a resolution to express council and Mayor Kuhn's commitment to undertake the recommended steps and to have employee engagement surveys on a biennial basis. The fiscal consideration, the funding for the consultant to assist in the implementation of the action plan was not included in the 2021 budget and would need to be considered at such time that a consultant is hired for that purpose. The recommended motion is to move to approve resolution 1213. I stand for any questions that might come up here.
Thank you, Bob. Yes, Councilmember Wu.
Yes, thank you. I'd also like to thank you for including the employees changes that they would have liked to have seen in here. Can you tell us when we will be getting, if we're getting regular reports on this committee and the actions that are coming from the committee? Can you tell us when we'll get those reports?
Yes, dependent upon this resolution being adopted tonight, we are working on another piece, that is the putting together a request for qualifications from consultants to, we want to get that out to the committee so they can look at it. It's in its final stages. I expect it to be prepared and sent out to the committee for review sometime this week. I'm getting assistance and support from our interim city clerk, Josh Decker, to put that together. Once that's done, then we would send it out, receive proposals back from consultants who are interested in supporting us. And then we would, again, from the overall, I'll say that the employee committee, we would ask for several folks who would want to serve on a review committee, a subcommittee of that employee committee, to help us select and recommend a consultant to carry this through with assistance and support on the results and implementing those.
And do we have a target date for that coming back to council?
No, not at this time. It'll take about a month to get the RFQs out, get the responses back, and to vet those and put together a report. I would expect it'll most likely be sometime in August. The other piece you want to consider is that we obviously want to continue to get more and more of our employees back to work before we start implementing any of these steps. Obviously they're present physically, because it's the consultants would tell you for the most part that it's very difficult to do these things remotely. We want to develop these committees, so I would expect that would come later this summer into early fall.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Councilmember Denson.
So thank you, Mayor. Do I understand that it was the recommendation of this committee with council and employees that we do a biennial survey and not an annual survey? So I thought we were talking about annual, at least council was.
The key there is that if you do the survey every other year, you'll have time to get the results, to work on some of those things. And as I noted in the resolution in section 1, it gives some of those key implementation steps. It does take a while. My own experience has been if you try to do it every year, that might be fine and well if you have what I'll call generally no issues, so to speak of. But if you have things to work on, it does take a little bit of time to get those things organized with the employee groups. And most consultants, we can certainly ask them when we send out the RFQ, but I would think most consultants that I've worked with over the years would recommend every other year. So you have a chance to implement the results and then work on those and making sure that those are the things that the employees obviously wanted. And you can communicate those things, and you can start celebrating some of the successes and then work on it from there. I can tell you though that my understanding is that cities don't generally do these even every other year, but I think in our case, I think it'd be wise to at least consider starting out on an every other year basis until we get a good groundwork done and a base.
Great. Okay. Anyone now at this point, I will open up the public comment. Were there any written comments sent in to us, Mr. Larson?
No, Mayor, we did not receive any written comments on this item.
Okay. Any callers that wish to raise their hand to speak on this? Yes. Kaya Long, I'm sorry, I'm probably saying that wrong. Kia Long.
You said that. Yeah, you said that correct. I was just curious, is there a way to get the information on which consulting firms you're using and how many consultants that are available or that you guys are going to be chosen? Thank you.
We have not selected any consultants as of yet to receive it. We normally put it out under a public process, and so that any consultant who's qualified and has the right credentials could submit a proposal.
Thank you. Any other callers? Okay, I will close the public comment period and council deliberation. Councilmember Wu.
Yes, thank you. So I think this is good to move forward with, and I will move to approve Resolution 1213.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Councilmember Rodenberg seconded it. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Abstain? Okay, motion passes 6-1. Our third item tonight is Resolution 1214, Public Works Trust Fund Loan Opportunities. The report tonight is from our Public Works Director, Jeff Langhelm.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. As we've discussed at the June 10th study session, Washington State's Public Works Board provides some very low interest loans to jurisdictions such as ours for public works projects. This is done through their Public Works Trust Fund Loan Program. The city has received the benefit of using Public Works Trust Fund loan monies in the past. But for decades, the city, or for the last decade, the state legislature has redirected those funds to pay for other state expenses. But this year, we were fortunate the board announced that this spring they will be funding the Public Works Trust Fund Loan Program again as part of the 2021-23 biennial budget. So we have reviewed the qualifications and restrictions on the applications process for applying for Public Works Trust Fund loans. And after reviewing that and after having a discussion with City Council on June 10th, we're recommending adoption of Resolution 1214 for the Public Works Trust Fund loans for either one or both projects that are listed in the resolution. We're looking to have some final reviews done by staff still this week. And so that's why the resolution is not specific on which project, one project or the other, the Canterwood Boulevard Emergency Water Intertie or Lift Station 5 improvements. But we're leaving that to the discretion of the mayor in the resolution. I'm not sure if if any council members want me to go through and talk a little bit more about the scope of either one of those projects. But the idea is that we will finalize a decision by the end of this week and submit applications by the July 9th due date, which is next week, end of next week. So that's my report. Happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you. Councilmember Markley.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Langhelm, can you remind me, are these two projects, two of the ones that were kind of further down on the list of things that we were going to go after funding for or use, refresh my memory, using the, is it the American Rescue Plan funds? And these were on that same list, right? Or at least the Canterwood tie-in was on that list?
Well, when we first talked about American Rescue Plan funds, we considered these projects, both of these projects. However, since Canterwood Boulevard Emergency Water Intertie is already 50% of the way or so through design, it didn't make sense to use federal funds and federalize that project at this point. Plus, the dollar amount on this project is the Canterwood project is fairly low. I think it's $400,000. And so to federalize a project, it makes better sense to federalize a higher dollar project. And also regarding the Lift Station 5 project, yes, that was also in that list, but we were looking at those funds and thinking about the actual scope of the work and the benefits it would entail. It was fairly limited in terms to sewer utility rate customers. So, and just mostly those that are in this basin. So staff looked at that, and after talking to City Administrator Larson, recommended the other two projects for the American Rescue Plan Act funds. So we kind of pulled these off. We don't have to, but that's our recommendation, is to not going after the American Rescue Plan Act for these two projects, instead looking at those as Public Works Trust Fund projects.
So this would be a more advantageous way to get these projects done than bonds and things like that. It would cost the taxpayers less and to utilize a program like this. Have you seen that? You've seen that work in the past with these types of loans? Create a cost benefit?
Yes, significant cost benefit. I mean, the finance director, Dave Rodenbach, could say specifics, but generally the cost to originate a loan is basically non-existent with Public Works Trust Fund loans. And then the interest rate on Public Works Trust Fund loans is much, much lower than market rate, and bonds are closer to market rate. So I don't know if you have anything else to add, Dave.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Councilmember Franich.
Yeah, I'd just like to say for the record that I'm very happy that the state finally put some money back into this program. This is a program that saves the taxpayers a tremendous amount of money due to these low interest, long-term loans. So it's a very good program, and happy to see that the legislature got something right.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I will open up the public comment period on new business item 3. Bob Larson, was there any written comments turned in?
Mayor, we did not receive any written comments on this item.
Okay, thank you. I will be opening up the public comment for the callers to see if anyone has their hand raised of the callers. Yes, I will like to say that the public comment period is, we need you to say your name and then your address. And the public comment is really for someone to comment, but not to have a dialogue back and forth, just so you're aware of this. Go ahead, Kia. Okay. Feel free to go ahead and email us if you have comments that you wish to discuss.
Mayor, this particular speaker, I believe his microphone's on mute. He may not know that.
Oh, okay. Your microphone is muted if you did want to speak again.
I just wanted to know, if possible, what was allocated to Gig Harbor for the CARES Act. How much did you guys receive? Just curious, out of curiosity. If I can ask that question, please.
I will answer it, but just so you know, as I just stated, public comment isn't to engage. It's a council meeting, and it's not to engage, ask questions back and forth. But I believe, but I will, do this just so you know. I believe it was at $320,000, Bob.
Yeah, that's correct. If he's referring to the ones from last year, that's correct.
That's correct. Okay. All right. I don't see any other callers, so I will close the public comment period. Councilmember Wook.
Yes, thank you. I'd also like to say that this came before the Public Works Committee, and we thought it was a great idea and a good use of the citizens' money and saving the citizens' money, and we were very much in favor of this. It is very nice to see this come back, and it's due to the legislature making this happen for us again. So let's hope this is just the beginning of many years to come of the Public Trust Fund. So thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Himes. You're on mute, Councilmember Himes.
Unmute, and I move to approve Resolution 1214.
Great.
Second.
There's a second by Councilmember Wook. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes 7-0. Our fourth item tonight is Community Paddlers Dock Construction Support Services. It's a professional service contract amendment, number 1 from DCG. The report tonight is from our Public Works Director, Jeff Langhill. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you, Mayor. So the proposed professional services contract amendment you have before you tonight from DCG is intended to provide construction support services for the upcoming construction project for the Community Paddlers Dock, as the mayor said. The city began advertising for this project earlier this month, and we hope to have a Public Works contract award in front of council by the last meeting in July. The amendment specifically tonight is intended to pay for the engineer of record to review the construction documentation, provide city staff support both during bidding and construction, and it includes materials testing. Quite often when we award construction projects, we contract out separately for materials testing, but because of the specialty nature of this, we requested the consultant to have the materials testing included in this contract. I have the table that was included in the council. I just wanted to show that real quick to outline what the upcoming, what the current project funding is and what the upcoming project funding is proposed to be. So hopefully you can see this on your screen. This council bill is the first time I put together fully what is being proposed for the anticipated 2021 revenues. I know we've had lots of discussions about this, but what I've added here for the first time is the canoe and kayak race team donation, as noted at the last council meeting, and then the Port of Tacoma local economic development impact or funds revenues that we're proposing to receive from Port of Tacoma. Still don't have the agreement from them, still working on that, but I anticipate we'll have that. So this totals $730,000, which we had talked about back in February. And then we have, for expenses in 2021, we have the design and permitting that had to be finished for this project by David O Consulting Group, DCG. We have our contract amendment that's proposed for you tonight, $86,000. We will need to pay for a construction surveying, and then we have a public works contract that we anticipate will be $630,000, or sorry, $683,000. And so that's the anticipated budget. Looks like if we do have a public works construction contract that comes in at that value, we will be over budget. But we can talk about that at the time when we actually have a contract before us. So that's all I have for my report. I'm happy to answer any questions at this point.
Great. Clarifying questions from council to staff. Councilmember Denson.
Are we still on track to start construction this year?
Yes.
Oh, yes, we are.
We're going to, the goal is to complete this. I think the contract is, if I'm not wrong, it's December 20th. Well, is it the 31st or does it go into next year? But that's just for extra time.
Well, yeah, the contract itself only has restrictions on for time wise. I mean, it has some working days in it, but the working days will carry over into 2022 if necessary, depending on delays for submittals, reviews, permits. We still don't have all of our permits from the U.S. Army Corps. The mayor and I have been working with the U.S. Army Corps on that recently again. So it really depends on when we can get all of our permits in place. But we have the hearing examiner decision. We have all of the agreements moving forward with the Jerkovich family and DNR. So all of that is moving forward, and you'll continue to see more on this project as we proceed. But the key will be to get all of those permits and approvals in place so we can award a contract at the end of the meeting at the end of July. If we don't receive those permits, we will delay the bid opening and thus the contract award. And that could start to eat away into our time frame. That said, for the anticipated in-water construction window, pulling old piles, installing new piles, we will need to complete that work by February 15th, 2022 to meet any construction fish windows. So
we're really going forward. I mean, the goal is to get this started in September as far as doing it. The concrete dock of the old Jerkovich concrete dock that's kind of deteriorating, that's crumbling. We were trying to actually bank that for the home port and be able to get that out way before this. It obviously didn't happen with COVID. So the goal is actually to get that old concrete decrepit dock out of there with the same barges that are building the dock. So, and then have the Corps of Engineer let us bank that mitigation for the Fisherman's Home Port. So we are working, it's one of the most important projects this year to do all that. Councilmember Franich.
Are they allowing us to bank the mitigation?
They are. We're working on it. I mean, they're not used to people doing it ahead of time, and we're doing it for environmental purposes, and it's all about the environment. So we're working with Haley and another lady. I'll let Jeff touch on that, but we're working hard to let them do that.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. We are proceeding with our permit applications in what the U.S. Army Corps calls advanced mitigation. So we're doing mitigation in advance of a project. We have a project identified, we just don't have it scoped and the permit applications in. And so we're working through the federal government permitting requirements, and we are working through the state. Right now, we're trying to work with Department of Fish and Wildlife. They are asking for a memorandum of agreement that outlines the details of this mitigation and how it will be used in the future. And so that's what we're waiting on at this point. And it balls in my court right now to respond back to Department of Fish and Wildlife to get that memorandum of agreement. And that if we are able to proceed forward with that, we will bring it to council, and that'll be another topic that we talk about in a future council meeting. And as the mayor said, if we're able to get those two projects to align with the contracts, we could put the advanced mitigation of the Jerkovich Pier demolition out to bid. And if we are able, if the contractor for the community paddlers dock is able to minimize their mobilization fees by already being here, that would be advantageous to the city also.
Right. So we're not sure yet.
Not sure yet.
But they've been helpful. They have
Yeah.
been helpful.
Okay, so on that spreadsheet you just had up that's in our council packets, expenditures in italics are estimated. Is that just the last two? I'm having a hard time deciphering what is italics and what's not. Is the construction surveying and the construction contract, are those the two that are italicized?
Yes, I'm sorry. Maybe next time I'll put them in a different color or a different font or something. But yes, those last two, construction surveying and public works construction contract, are italicized and they're just estimated.
Okay, so, and on page 7 of 11, under budget, can you tell me what the difference between task 6 and why can't task 9 be handled under task 6?
Just a minute, let me pull that up here again. Sorry, I closed that one.
Task 6 is construction management and 9 is on-site quality assurance.
Okay, I'm sorry, task 6 and task 9.
If
On-site-
we're paying somebody for construction management, you'd think that they would be looking after the quality. I mean, they're there to inspect the construction process.
On-site quality assurance is the materials testing, and that's not necessarily construction management. That's the part that we would usually contract out separately. But because of the specialty circumstances, we're having them include those tasks underneath there, since they're the engineer of record.
So
Construction management is separate from that. It's not materials testing. It's managing the construction project itself.
So task 9 should say testing.
Yeah, yeah. And let me triple check something here. Yeah,
Because I thought that there was somewhere else that I saw that there was some testing called out as a separate amount, but
there is some under sub task number 10, NTC Materials Testing Corp. For $3,780. Yeah. And I have to say, I mean, when we often propose these types of contracts, this is worst case scenario if we're not able to spend as much time with our staff as we would like to do on a project like this. We often come back with spending less than what these contracts are. And for example, the design contract, we're on this project, we're well under the amount that was estimated for the community paddler stock design by, I'm sure it's $12,000 to $15,000 at this point.
okay, so then I guess since on page 9 with MTC, it is calling out the testing. So then what is going on? You just told me that task 9 had to do with testing.
And specialty inspection. And so those are the types of inspections that we staff won't be able to do. Because I mean, we don't, our staff is not experts in marine pile driving and some of the daily inspections that need to take place for biologists that have to be out there to make sure that the contractors properly installed their bubble curtains, for example, and all of their other mitigation requirements.
Well, how does that not fall under construction management?
Construction management, if you look at, what is that? It's page, at the top, it says new business for page 8 of 11. Construction management is hosting and taking notes for weekly meetings, scheduling and pay estimates, proposal reviews from the contractor, supporting documents review and development, filing of documents to make sure that they're collected and put in our filing structure properly so that we can pass audits, review of contractor schedules, which we get new schedules on a weekly basis, Permit notification to agencies, that has to be with all of the permit agencies. We need to double check that all of the requirements are met, and DCG will be the one responsible. And then developing and reviewing as-built drawings. And so none of that is the daily inspections.
Okay, are you okay with that, Councilmember Franich? I want to give you enough time.
Well, yeah, I'm just trying to reconcile because I see on that page 8, it lists tasks 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And I'm just trying to see if it's always kind of funny how the ones with the numbers are really hard, get real small on that page. Does that say 16,200?
Under which task?
9 on page 8?
Yes, $16,200.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other clarifying questions? Okay, I will open up the public comment. Bob Larson, has anyone sent in any written comments for new business item 4?
Mayor, we have not received any written comments on this item.
Thank you. Now I will go to our callers. If any of the callers have items that they want to, or if they have to comment on new business item 4. Okay, I don't see anyone raising their hand. I will close the comment portion of this new business item and council deliberation and action. Councilmember Himes. Oh, Councilmember Himes, you're on mute.
Problems with that mute tonight. I went through this thing and I was pleasantly surprised. If you look at the $86,000 and you look at the 564, it's either 564 or 594. The print's so small I can't read it. Total number of hours involved. It comes out about $146 per hour. And just for the work that we can't do internally, when you factor in benefits and base salaries, this is actually a pretty good deal. I thought it would be considerably higher, but it's not. And so therefore, I'm definitely supportive of this.
Great. Councilmember Franich.
On page 2 of 11, Jeff, the anticipated 2021 expenditures,
Yes.
the contract for design and permitting, that was what they did back in February and March.
And what they did up until middle of June, until we started advertising. Yeah, to get the project out to advertise.
So when they came up with the construction estimate, that contract amount was the $28,236.
They billed toward that amount, yes. Is that what you're asking?
No, what was the total amount that we paid them for the construction estimate?
Oh, well, for the construction estimate only, I'm not sure. But for all of the contract that had design, permitting, and estimating, I want to say it was $80,000, something in that range.
Well, right. That's why I thought that this $28,000 seemed a little light.
Well, two things. One, they did a lot of that work in 2020. Because remember, we contracted with them at the middle to end of 2020, and they're not expending all of the funds.
So to get to that original construction estimate, you're figuring it was around 80,000?
Yeah, that's my recollection.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Wu.
Yes, thank you. It's about time we're getting this done. I know we have lots of paddlers on this team that are excited. We have lots of citizens in this community that are really excited about being able to use this facility. So I'm happy to see it going forward. It's something I support, and I move to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a professional services contract, amendment number 1, with David O. Consulting Group, Inc., in an amount not to exceed $86,719.
Second.
Councilmember Himes, seconded.
Second.
Thank you. Any other deliberation? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed?
No.
Abstain? Okay, motion passes 6-1. Just since I have you right here at the moment, Jeff, do we have to make that call tomorrow to work on that mitigation more? You were going to give her a call back on the permitting of that?
I sent her an email saying that we would like to talk, and she didn't respond.
Okay,
I tried to call their Seattle office, regulatory branch office, and it just said that that you had to leave a message. So I haven't heard back.
so as you know, I'm taking a little time off this week, but email me, and I'll be in to make that call with you
Yeah.
at a moment's notice.
Correct. I mean, I don't need to talk about all of it here, but if I don't hear from them, then I will call you and we will schedule something.
Thank you. Okay, we've got new business item 5, which is release of easement. It's 9322 Goodman Avenue. Our report tonight is Public Works Director Jeff Langhelm. You have quite a few tonight.
Once again, yes. Here, I'm going to show on the screen a vicinity map so we can, and it's the same vicinity map you had. Oh, sorry, let me stop for a second. That you had in the council bill, just so that the public can see it though also. Okay. Okay, so the property we're talking about is the one highlighted in magenta. Earlier this year, the property owner, Mr. Schmidt, owns 9322 Goodman Avenue, requested that the city release an easement that would vacate our utility easement goes across the property. As you know, this is a residential area of town, and this is one of the few vacant lots in this residential area that is not yet developed. I have worked with Public Works staff to review the site and the existing utilities that exist in this area. And we've determined that there is no longer a need for the easement for operation purposes. And let's see, I believe in the packet, there was also at the very end of the document, there was the actual release, and there was a map showing the limits of that. So I can bring that up if anybody wants, but it does show the easement running north-south, basically splitting the property in half for this easement. When we have an easement such as this, the easement says that you cannot build anything on it. You cannot build a house on it, build a garage on it, or anything like that. You know, fencing and landscaping, that's one thing, but so it's fairly restrictive. That means that the property, as it sits with the easement, has a very limited building area. I did present this at the May 2021 Public Works Committee meeting. At that meeting, there was a request to check in with Community Development Department to see if they had any concerns. I did such. I spoke with Director Knutson. She did not express any concerns. She did note that any future development of the parcel will need to comply with all city regulations per the municipal code, and that includes compliance with construction along the steep slopes area, design review, and everything else. I can bring it up also if there's interest. There is a very steep slope on this project. Only the eastern portion of the site is fairly flat. The western portion drops steeply into a ravine. So that's what we have before you tonight. The property owner, I believe, was earlier an attendee. If you have any further questions, but yes, still is. If you have any questions, Mr. Adam Schmidt. So,
thank you. Now, clarifying questions for Jeff. Councilmember Denson.
The owner of this property, is this owner, which property are they also a resident of? Can you?
They don't, I don't believe in my communication with Mr. Schmidt that he doesn't own any other properties in this area. I believe he lives out of town and is looking to build a house there.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay, great. We will open up the public comment period of this. Bob Larson, was there any public comment turned in, written?
Mayor, we did not receive any written comments on this item.
Thank you. Now I will open up for callers. If anyone wishes to speak their name and address and have 3 minutes. Any callers that wish to speak, please raise your hand. Okay, I will close the public comment period. Now it's time for council deliberation and action. Would a council member like to make a motion?
I
Councilmember Himes.
approve. Oh, sorry.
Councilmember Himes. Oh, you're on mute.
Oh,
Sorry
wow.
about that. Yeah, this-
I'll stay unmuted here. I have trouble with that thing. Given that community development is bought into this, I think it has eased our concerns about this property. And therefore, I would like to move that we approve this particular action to release and terminate the easement at 9322 Goodman Avenue.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Markley, second. Any other deliberation before action is taken? Okay. There's a motion, there's a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, motion passes 7-0. We will move to new business item 6, which is lease agreement with the Chamber of Commerce. The report tonight is City Administrator Bob Larson.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. The city is interested in signing a new lease with the Chamber of Commerce for Gig Harbor. The premises at 3125 Judson Street, the property and the building which the chamber currently occupies. This proposed lease would replace the prior lease with the chamber. It would run for a period of 5 years with the option to continue for an additional 5 years if both parties agree to such extension in writing. The rent for the lease will be brought to current market levels at the start of the agreement. And then after that, the chamber would receive a 50% reduction in rent because it will use 50% of the premises for chamber use only. The rest of the space will be operated and continue to be operated by the chamber as a visitor center on behalf of the city. The scope of services that would be provided by the chamber for that operation of the visitor center is outlined in Exhibit A, which is attached to the lease agreement here and the agenda bill. And then in consideration for providing those services, the chamber would receive a further reduction of the rent by another additional 50%. Therefore, the reduction due to using half the space and the reduction due to operating and staffing the visitor center would equate to the chamber paying 25% of the market rate for the entire structure. And then this monthly rent amount is then corrected for prior CPI adjustments with a resulting monthly rent of $844. And after that, if this agreement is approved, the rent would automatically increase annually by the Consumer Price Index for the Seattle, Tacoma, Bremerton area. The other piece that after discussing with staff, we realized that this is one lease that we did not have the tenant paying the Washington State leasehold excise tax, which is actually required by state law. So in this case, the chamber would be paying an additional amount of 12.84% of the monthly rent, which equates to $108.36 during the first year of the lease. And then of course that'd be adjusted accordingly by the CPI based on the new rent. And then also the tenant, according to the lease terms, is required to pay all utilities and it would be responsible for maintenance and repair of the premises. The tenant is not responsible for repair or replacement of the roofing or heating, ventilation, and air conditioning when such repairs become necessary in the normal use and operation of the premises. Those would be the landlord, which is the city. The fiscal consideration, this lease would result in the city being paid market rate for the premises and the city receiving the scope of services for the visitor center. as described in Exhibit A. And the recommendation is for council to move and approve and authorize the mayor to execute a lease with the Chamber of Commerce of Gig Harbor for the premises located at 3125 Judson Street. That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Any clarifying questions for Mr. Larson? Councilmember Denson.
Sorry, it wasn't really a question. I talked with Daniel about this a couple weeks ago maybe, and I need to recuse myself from this because I've been a longtime paying member of the chamber and serve on at least one of the committees.
Thank you. Councilmember Franich.
Yeah, what are they paying right now net?
Currently, the chamber pays in cash $500 based on a $2,000 per month rent.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Markley.
Yes, thank you. I also serve on one of the chamber committees. I don't feel that I need to recuse myself for that, but if I do, please let me know. I serve on the Government Relations Committee. So my question is just about one of the lease terms and the status of improvements and repairs that need to be made. So Mr. Kenny, is that a reason to recuse myself, do you believe, or?
Well, I mean, I don't know much about the committee, but it doesn't seem like acting on that committee alone would require a recusal.
Okay, thank you. I didn't think it would, but I wanted to make sure. Just on page 3 of 11, under 2.2 condition of premises, the existing repairs that need to be completed that we were told about, you know, the roof, the AC, things like that, I'm trying to remember, did we already talk about completing those items, or are they signing this lease without those things being repaired? Like at the time of this lease, are those things still going to not be done? And will they be done in a timely manner? The ones that are needing to be done, like soon?
You talked about them in there.
We've made some minor repairs next year. The roofing and the heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems have not been improved or replaced. We're anticipating those to be done in 2022, which I understand the chamber is aware of. We feel that the roof is in good enough repair that it can make it through another season, as well as the HVAC. If any additional comments, I know Jeff Langham, the Public Works Director, is following this closely as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I mentioned it's in here, some of working on it. That's not the responsibility, and that we're going to also that leak that's right above that side walkway that they showed us, that was fixed years ago. So that, you know, the tile hasn't been replaced, just to show that it's not leaking there anymore. So Councilmember Rodenberg. Nope, Councilmember Rodenberg, you're on mute.
It shows that you're off mute, but we can't hear you.
My screen's also showing that. There you go. Yes.
Yeah, bear a little louder if you can.
Okay, yeah, I'm having problem with, I'm actually using, you can see I'm signed in twice here, but the volume, my audio is not working on my city-owned computer. So anyway, under section 5, 5.1.2, it actually says that the tenant is not obligated to repair or replace the roof or heating, ventilation, air conditioning when it's needed. So just that'll answer Councilwoman Markley's question.
Thank you for finding that.
Well, my question wasn't whether they were going to pay for it. It's whether the repairs that we were saying we were going to do were going to be done prior to them, or prior to them signing this lease, or with an agreement that they would be done if they sign this lease.
Thank you.
Well, just to clarify that, there's no way we're going to do these repairs in 3 weeks or 4 weeks. They take longer than that. So our plan is to upkeep all of our buildings. So our plan is, it is in the budget. And so the plan is, as Jeff knows, to to get these, to identify how bad they are and then to get them in the next year's budget to do. Is that correct, Jeff?
Yes, that's correct.
I apologize. I want to point out that I missed in proofreading the lease agreement. There's 2.5.1.2. There's one on page 2 and then the one on top of page 3. I missed that. We'll get that corrected.
So Daniel, where'd he go? There you are. Can we correct that now so I don't have to? It is a different number, which is going to move. Can we do 5.1.2b or something?
We'll just consider that a Scrivener's error. That was just very minor oversight that has no substantive impact.
Okay. All right. Okay, now I will open it up to public comment. Any written comments turned in, Bob Larson?
Mayor, we did not receive any written comments on this item.
Okay. And now I will open up to callers. Any callers that wish to comment on this, please raise your hand or *9, I believe it is, to identify that you wish to speak. Okay, I will close the public comment period and move to action, council deliberation and action. Do I have a council member that wants to make a motion? Well, Warren Zimmerman would like to get this done before he leaves. So we do want to get this signed. Councilmember Wu.
Yes, thank you. So I'm very supportive of this, and I move to approve and authorize the mayor to execute a lease with the Gig Harbor Chamber of Commerce for the premises located at 3125 Judson Street.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Markley, second. Council deliberation. Okay, there's a motion, there's a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? It would be Councilmember Denson, correct? Okay.
Yes.
Just 1 second on my little note here. Motion passes 6 with 1 abstain. Our next item is new business item 7, which is Gig Harbor North Crosswalk Improvements, Public Works Construction Contract Award. The report tonight is the Public Works Director, Jeff Langhill.
Thank you, Mayor. As you see in the council bill, we had 2 bidders who submitted bids on the crosswalk improvements for Gig Harbor North at Borgin Boulevard. Sound Pacific Construction is the low bidder with their amount of $479,952. The engineer opinion of probable construction costs was $470,000. So it's a little above the construction cost estimate. And as you see in the financial consideration, with the purchase previously by city staff of the rapid rectangular flashing beacon units, RFBs, and the change order authority added in there, we are a little over $149,000 over the 2021 budget, but staff is still recommending award of this project. We have sufficient funds to cover this project. And I wanted to let you know that the RFBs that were pre-ordered are already in city hands. They're sitting up at city shop, ready to be installed and handed over to the contractor. Lastly, we did a little modification to our standard contract for this. We're under this contract, we changed the working days to be Monday through Saturday. So now we're going to be charging the contractor working days Monday through Saturday instead of this typical Monday through Friday. And then based on that, the schedule, we anticipate the construction contract to be substantially complete before Labor Day weekend. So with that, we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Councilmember Fanich.
How many rectangular flashing beacons is entail?
Well, it depends on how you want to count them. It entails 12 legs of a roundabout. So we have 3 roundabouts. Each roundabout has 4 legs. On the roundabouts that have 4 lanes approaching them and the legs that have 4 lanes, there are 2 sets of RRFBs, one for the westbound traffic on Borgen, one for the eastbound traffic. And same thing with Harbor Hill on the north and south. So I could do the math real quick, but there's quite a few. I forget exactly how many there's got to be. Well, anyway, there's quite a few.
Okay, I will open up the public comment. Were there any public comments turned in written form, Bob Larson?
Mayor, we did not receive any written comments on this item.
Thank you. Now I would turn to the callers. If any of the callers wish to speak on new business item 7, please raise your hand. Okay, I will close the public comment portion of this agenda, of this council bill. Let's see, this says it's a public hearing, Jeff. So Daniel, do I have to treat this, do I have to treat this different on a public hearing than a public comment?
I think that's just an error. I don't know if Josh Decker could comment on that. I should just say public comment for construction contract awards such as this. We typically don't have to do a public hearing for it.
Okay, okay. All right, Councilmember Wu.
Thank you. So Director Langham, thank you so much for working hard to get this. This is important for Gig Harbor North. We know that all those folks up there are concerned. We have a new school. This is a huge safety issue up there, and to know that it's going to be done by Labor Day weekend is really a good thing, I think, for that community and for those kids. So, and the council has obviously been really in favor of this. So thank you so much for working on this. I authorize the mayor to execute a public works contract with Sound Pacific Construction, LLC, in an amount not to exceed $479,952. I also authorize the city engineer to approve additional public works contract expenditures up to $20,000.
Councilmember Hines.
Yeah, I just had a question. Under section 2, there's a comment in there about all contract work shall be physically complete as stated in section SC 1-08.5. I assume that magic date before Labor Day is in that section. And what is that date? I hate to be so untrusting, but.
Well, I don't have the contract memorized. That supplementary condition date is in the bid documents. And I talked to Trent Ward this morning about this exact topic. And what he described to me was that there were contract working days. And I can look that up and report back to you about specifically what that date is, but it shouldn't have a specific actual date. It should probably, because we're counting working days and we're not saying that it has to be done during a specific date.
Okay, so we don't have a firm agreement with those guys on when this has to be done.
No, let's just say we have weather days that come in. We have contract working days that are authorized by this. And it is, if we have weeks worth of, or many days worth of poor weather, then it's going to push out that substantial completion date because we cannot count certain days as working days. But I see City Attorney has his hand up. I'd like to.
Well, he might point out that I know we don't have a second yet.
That was all. We skipped over a second. Sorry.
I just didn't want to cut him off. I figured we'd let him ask this question.
I'll second it.
Okay. So go. So Bob, Himes, Councilmember Himes, I don't want to, did you get enough clarity of what you feel?
Yeah, we're essentially, by the way, timing is everything in this thing. Okay, has been for some time, so to speak. And to have the most important thing kind of a, well, maybe, and we'll do our best. I guess all I can say is, well, we're going on faith on this one. I'm used to critical things to the outcome being in a contract. And by the way, at that point, the contractor has to do what they have to do. So this is a different scenario in my opinion.
This 2-page contract is essentially saying that you, contractor, have to meet all the conditions of the contract documents. And the contract documents is hundreds of pages long. And so instead of having the council review hundreds of pages of technical information, we provide you this contract. If you would like to see the document, I would be happy to email you a link to the contract documents that has that in there. But we don't like to duplicate dates or amounts. We refer to the information in one area and one area only, so that you don't accidentally have a typo. And so that's why the contract itself just refers to the contract documents.
Okay, it's just a different way of doing business. Usually we like to signal to the contractor, this is a really big deal. This date's a really big deal. Okay, and we are counting on you to pull this off by that date. Okay, so enough said. It's just a different scenario, but something we got to think about in the future.
And I want to point out, as Councilmember Wu talks of, this is important. That's why these council bills are here.
Yeah.
That's the reason why we're bringing these council bills to you, is because the mayor, the staff, and the council are wanting to get these accomplished. So that's why these council bills are coming to you for the citizens. So, Councilmember Franich.
So Jeff, I understand the difference between the working days and the date of completion. Did you feel that it would have added too much extra cost to try and get an absolute finish date rather than a working days number?
Yes, that would have been a little bit of it, but really we didn't, when we went out to bid with this project, we had a bid opening date set, and we were not sure if we were going to be able to have this contract awarded at tonight's council meeting. As council knows, we opened bids on this on Thursday and distributed it shortly thereafter, which is much later than we usually do. And we were fortunate that we didn't have any bidders claim error or protest bids. If that would have happened, we would have been off to the July 12th meeting for sure. And so if we were to have told the contractor that you have to be substantially complete by whatever the Friday is or Saturday is before Labor Day, and then council, we would not have been able to award the contract at tonight's council meeting and push them out another 2 weeks, that would have cut significantly into their ability to make progress. So we've shortened it as much as we feel is reasonable to have it completed in that time that we've allocated.
Yeah, and I might add to that, we actually got this, this was a placeholder up until Thursday. So we actually let this council bill come in late Thursday so that we didn't bump this to July. So.
Right. Well, Jeff, and I know the difference between it's substantially done and punch list done. And I didn't happen to have a chance to, I don't know if I didn't get it or I just didn't see, because it was added to the packet at a later date. But what that day, is that substantially done, whatever that day is before Labor Day, or is it completely done?
Well, that's not in the packet. It's in that supplementary condition 1-08.5. that will talk about whether or not that's that section likely has in it how many days the contractor has to obtain substantial completion and how many days they have to obtain physical completion. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it does say. Oh, okay. I'm reading it again. Supplementary condition. All contract work should be physically complete as stated in supplementary condition 1-05. So it's both in section 1-05.
Well, and whatever that day is before Labor Day, is it substantial completion or completion?
Substantial completion.
All right, thank you.
Okay, there was a motion, there was a second. Any more deliberation? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, motion passes. And then we will move on to new business item 8. North Creek Gig Harbor LLC property donation, environmental assessment phase 1, professional service contract, Landau Associates Inc. The report is Public Works Director Jeff Landau.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to bring up on the screen the location we're talking about here. Just a quick moment. Oh, sorry. Just give me a minute. I'm going to scroll so you don't have to see the map moving quickly. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, hopefully you have on your screen an aerial map. You can see in here few landmarks. Here's the new roundabout, Harbor Hill and Burnham Drive. Here's 96th Street, Cushman Trail. The picture, it's odd, the picture you have here is showing you before the Cushman Trail was constructed. Let me zoom in a little bit, see if that changes. But this is the parcel highlighted in magenta. Oh no, it's there. It's just off to the side. So you can see from this map, the Cushman Trail, according to the parcel map, was offset from its actual location within the TPU right-of-way here. A couple of years ago, the city went through and worked with the same property owner, North Creek Gig Harbor LLC, to obtain an easement for the Cushman Trail, since it wasn't placed directly within the Cushman Trail in this section. The city purchased an easement from the property owner and then finished that transaction. And earlier this year, this same property owner came back to the city and said that they no longer think that they want to keep this. They don't think it's viable to construct it. As you probably know, there's significant wetlands there. And so they wanted to simply donate it to the city. And so what the contract you have before you tonight will allow the city to go through its due diligence process for property acquisition. As you probably know, in our property acquisition checklist, there's that the policy has with the city to perform a phase 1 environmental site assessment to determine whether or not there are any outstanding environmental conditions that may impact the city's acquisition of this property. The contract with Landau and Associates will provide us with that phase 1 environmental site assessment. The costs for the environmental site assessment and other costs to finalize the property donation were not included in the 2021 budget. That's one reason why we're here tonight. But since the property will likely be used to support the Cushman Trail, we are recommending that the cost for this be paid out of ending fund balance for the Parks Development Fund.
I might add, I've been working on and off with this person for 2 years, who has wanted to donate this property to us. Jim Schaefer is his name, and for 2 years he's had expressed interest in donating this to us. And so it's 2 to 3 years of work to get to this stage. So it's exciting to know that this person wants to donate part of this land. Councilmember Rodenberg.
Director Hanghelm, I have a question. How is this property going to support the Cushman Trail?
Well, ideally, it could be used for parking. There is some areas, the very southern portion of this property is not in wetlands, but it is in a wetland buffer. And so we could have some parallel parking or some angle in parking or something to provide support for Cushman Trail, because we don't have any parking along this section. The closest parking is either up at the very north end along Borger Boulevard or south at Grandview Street. Other than that, there's no other parking along the Cushman Trail right now in this area.
Thank you.
I also might add, some of the people near here wanted us to buy their property for parking. So it's great that we actually have someone that's willing to donate it to us. Councilmember Franich.
What are the dimensions of this property?
Let me check real quick. I'll take a quick measurement and I'll get back to you.
As he's checking into that, Councilmember Wook.
Yes,
if it's
thank you.
Still a clarifying question.
Right. So how many trees are on this property? And if we turn it into a parking lot, what happens to those trees?
I'm not sure how many significant trees there are. When I say significant trees, I'm talking about significant trees that meet the definition in our code. I know that there's a significant amount of alder along here, but there's not a whole lot of significant trees, if any, on this property.
So significant has to do with the diameter of the tree.
And the species. Yeah, alders of any diameter, my understanding, alders of any diameter are not considered significant trees.
So before these trees get cut down, will this come back to the council?
Oh, yes, because if before any trees get cut down, unless they're hazardous or dangerous trees, if they're planning on being cut down for the development of the property, they will, because the council will have to authorize contracts to do that work.
Thank you.
Yes, and I do have an answer, Councilmember Franich. This property is, and I can bring it up on the screen here, actually, just a second, it might help. Let me share my screen again. Okay, so the property is roughly 92 feet wide by 124 feet tall, north-south.
And I'm assuming this picture is not that old. Right to the right of your cursor, is that an area that's been cleared, or is that just the lighter color area on the parcel itself?
I believe it's an area that has been gravel or dirt. Let me see if I can, let me clear my, let me clear my selection here, just a second.
You know, in the, you know, I support this. So, I mean, in the consideration of everybody's time, I could probably ask these questions offline. I have some other questions about some things in this area anyway, so I can maybe call you, Jeff, offline, so we can just kind of, I don't want to take everybody's time up over some questions that probably nobody cares about except me.
Okay, yeah, that'd be fine. You can see, though, I zoomed in a little bit and took off the hatching. You can see this is an open area right now in this area.
Uh-huh. All right.
You know, if you have questions, Jeff, Frank, or Jim too, I'm familiar with a lot of this property on the east side of the trail. So. Councilmember Albersole.
Yeah, Jeff, I'm just looking at the kind of the topography map that Google Earth's got, and I don't know how accurate it is, but concerned about if we did make that a parking lot, water, that it's just kind of a valley point, and you know, is water gonna flood that road if it comes off there? Is there gonna be proper drainage? Is it gonna go off onto the other properties around it? Is that something we're gonna need to deal with?
Well, We will definitely have to deal with any runoff that comes off the property if and when we develop the site. Ways that we could possibly develop it, and here I'm going to share my screen once again because I added the contours. I don't know if they're the same contours that you're looking at, Councilmember Eversole, but the rest of the council can see this. So these are 2-foot contour data from Pierce County. You can see, hopefully you can see that's 120, 122, 124, 126. So the property is sloping from north to south. We would likely look first at putting pervious pavements on the property so that we wouldn't have a stormwater issue to run off to deal with. If we are not able to put pervious pavements because the soils aren't accepting of water, then we would definitely be putting, in accordance with our public works standards, the proper storm detention and treatment on the site or in the right of way.
Okay, why don't you leave that up for a moment? Councilmember Markley.
Yes, thank you. So because we had a similar experience in our neighborhood, potentially, I mean, our parking lot that got put down in our neighborhood is significantly larger than this, I believe. But if you were not able to put pervious pavement and you had to put impervious surfaces in there, will that affect the ability of those homeowners in that neighborhood to be able to not modify their yards as we are not able to modify our yards?
No, that's a different issue because this is not part of a plat. It's its own separate parcel without those types of regulations. So
perfect. Thank you.
Okay, great. Bob, I'm going to open up the public comment portion of this meeting. Were there any written comments, Bob Larson?
Mayor, we did not receive any written comments on this item.
Okay. Now I will turn to the callers. Go ahead, Roger Henderson.
Hello, this is Roger Henderson, 10679 Sundial Lane, Gig Harbor. Just a couple comments on the parcel. I walk by that parcel relatively often. The large kind of an orangey structure in the middle of it, I believe, is a pretty sizable underground transformer that feeds that new development up there. That might kind of limit what you can do as far as parking goes just in the future. It's something that has to be looked at. Another thing, it would be best to use impermeable pavement because we don't want to put in another retention basin. So just a couple of things that you might want to look at. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Anyone else from the public that wishes to comment? Okay, I'll close the public comment. Again, a lot of this is to acquire actually a buffer and a wetland. So we can see what happens down the road, but as you know, it will go to council first, but it's open space too. Any other council deliberation? Councilmember Franich.
Yeah, I am very supportive of this, I think. I don't know, Mr. Kenny or Jeff, I mean, is there any potential drawbacks or liabilities that the city could now or in the future have to deal with?
I mean, I was just gonna say, I think that's largely what the phase 1 environmental is for. So yeah, I mean, absolutely want to consider that. And I think we'll get that information and then you all can make an assessment at that time.
Yeah, I mean, other than if there's a environmental cleanup that needs to be done.
I would say that's the largest risk that we would have and liability in the future is if there's environmental issues.
All right.
Okay. Okay, so do Councilmember Jensen.
Yeah, just given what Mr. Henderson said about that transformer, Mr. Lingham, are you aware of that, or do you think parking is possible there? Because it would be nice to have a little bit of additional parking for the Cushman Trail.
Yeah, well, and I can bring the image back up. the idea wouldn't be just for many reasons. We wouldn't be using the entire parcel for parking. And here, let me bring this back up. Many transformers have lids that you can drive on. I mean, you drive down in most city streets and you drive over vaults that that can handle weights of cars. But looking at this image, it's highly unlikely that we would be putting in a major parking area just because of the dimensions of this property are so small. But I think that we could work with Penn Light if they put a vault in here that will not accommodate parking or vehicles driving on it. I think we could work with Penn Light to have that modification made, or we could build around it. We could, again, do angle-in parking stalls and back the sidewalk up alongside of that and have the angled-in parking stalls right here. So, I mean, there's a variety of things. I don't think it's going to be too limiting. And I think that depending on costs, we could modify the structure to be able to accommodate parking.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, would a council member like to make a motion? Jeff, can you take that off so I can see people larger, if you don't mind? Okay. Councilmember Markley.
Yes, I move to authorize the mayor to execute a professional services contract with Landau Associates, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $7,555.
Second.
Councilmember Heim, second. Any other deliberation? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Those abstained? Motion passes 7-0. Okay, council reports, council comments. We had a Public Works Committee. It was June 15th. Councilmember Franich.
Yep, just grabbing the papers right now. Yep. We had our meeting on June 15th and
Councilmember, is there any way you can get closer to the speaker so we can hear?
yeah, we had our Public Works meeting on June 15th. There was no new business. The only old business was we discussed the 6-year transportation improvement plan. And we had a discussion about reprioritizing some of the numbering systems and whether or not how important it was to have those numbers correspond to timing of the projects. And then we discussed the capital improvement plan, tiers 1 through 4. And that was the extent of the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. And then we had our boards and commission candidate review committees, which was June 21st. Councilmember Aversol.
Yes, thank you. We had 3 candidates that we were interviewing, 2 for the planning department, or excuse me, planning committee. That's the word I was looking for. And one was for the parks. And so the mayor appoints the planning committee people. And I don't remember if the mayor did, or I think we made recommendations. One was a former board member, and the other one I think was new to the area and was looking to get involved. And then we also had a gentleman, Doug Tyrion, for the Parks Commission. And I apologize, I didn't have my notes from that day handy, so I don't recall what we did, but maybe Council Member Denson or Wook will remind me. I'm not remembering what we did with that gentleman.
So we recommend to the council.
Right, and the mayor supports the recommendations from council on both those. One's council support, appoint, one's mayor's support, but we all agreed upon the same.
that concludes my report.
Thank you. And then we have Finance and Safety Committee was June 21st. Councilmember Rodenberg.
Yes, we had a Finance Safety Committee meeting on June 21st. The number one topic on the agenda was the consideration of early payoff of the 2010 LTGO bonds. We had a guest, Mr. Trageser, who talked to us about timing and the different scenarios that we might do. The most apparent one, same one that council discussed in our work session, was to go with a lower interest bond. Right now, the current bonds are at 4.5%. New bonds would be 1.7%. That's what the committee recommended to council. One of the key questions was, where's this savings go? And it goes to the general fund. So we did make the recommendation that council would go forward with that option. Also in the meeting was Mayor Kuhn had comments about residents on the east side of the bay that in years past have helped us with identifying derelict boats. Those are boats that have parked or moored out in the bay beyond the allowable time. And they want to get in touch with the Finance and Safety Committee. And we said, yes, please do. That was a good program. It worked before. I know that Chief Busey is in support of that. And he's also commented on how well those particular residents have done in the past. So we welcome contact with them. And that concluded the meeting.
Thank you, Councilmember Rodenberg. Announcements of upcoming meetings. We have, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead, council members. Councilmember Franich.
Yeah, I had a question for Councilmember Rodenberg. I'm sorry, I had to leave that one study session early. What were the long-term general obligation bonds, the ones that you guys had discussed to refinance? What were those paying for?
The Civic Center. Sorry, Councilmember Rodenberg.
The City Hall?
Civic Center?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And it's council comment times. Councilmember Wook.
Thank you. So yes, thank you to all of our employees and for working in this hot weather, and especially for all of our employees who are getting the splash pad done and operational for this weekend that was so hot, and there were lots of kids playing in that water. So it was really hot, and you were very much appreciated by this community. So thanks for getting that done.
And since you might repeat that, everyone, I've learned, Jeff has trained me, it's a water feature.
Oh, sorry.
and it took me a while. Yesterday was the first day that today was the first day I think I said it right. But he's corrected me each time. So as you go out in the public, I think there's probably a code definition. So let's go under water feature.
Water feature. Thank you for getting that going.
You bet. I'll pass that along. Thank you, Mayor. Also.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to have that going, as well as our fountains and everything. And I hope in 2 days we have lots of smiles on June 30th. Any other council comments? Okay, we have announcements of upcoming meetings. The city offices are closed this coming Monday, July 5th for Independence Day holiday. Planning and Building Committee is Tuesday, July 6th. That's at 3 p.m. And then we have a city council study session Thursday, July 8th at 3 p.m., which also that would be, so Tony Pasecki would be joining us for that as well. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
All those in favor say aye.
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 There were 3 seconds, so I wasn't going to ask who it was. So meeting adjourned. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Happy 4th.
Happy 4th.